So there's an interesting thing that goes on in the comment section on YouTube, and I expected this, but it's strange. I don't have any particular emotional attachment in terms of who wins and who loses over a long period of time. Yet Senators fans have been very vocal that I'm extremely wrong about the Senators and that they're in for a meteoric rise and they're going to be fantastic, and I couldn't be more incorrect. Um, I've also had fans of other teams accuse me of being a homer, a huge Canucks fan, jealous, and it's a weird thing because people need to watch my Canuck videos where I tear my favorite team to shreds, and I say they'll probably finish last next year in the entire National Hockey League. And I don't say these things out of any emotional place. I say it just by looking at depth charts, looking at trends, and saying, here's how things work. You look at, okay, let me work my way through alphabetically. Okay, Anaheim, solid franchise. As much as I detest them, they're going to be in the playoffs for probably another 5 years. With the core they have, the drafting they have, their goaltending with John Gibson, their blue line, they're fantastic. And I hate them for it. Boston's a middling team. I think they're always going to be in the mix for the playoffs. I think until they find replacements for Chara, and I think they're going to have to start looking at a two-way forward to replace Bergeron as age starts to become an issue there. I don't see Boston hitting bottom, but I don't see them getting a whole lot better. Buffalo's already hit bottom. Buffalo is on their way up. I think with Eichel, Reinhart, picking up Okposo, picking up O'Reilly last summer, another year with Lehner in net, and some young guys on the blue line. There's a lot of potential there for Buffalo to grow, and I think Buffalo's going to get a lot better. Whether they make the playoffs or not is tough to say, but they've been out of the playoffs for a while. Calgary, when Calgary made the playoffs, not this season obviously, but the season before, that was ahead of time. That was ahead of the plan, and they overachieved, and now they've continued the rebuild. But in picking up Elliott and Johnson, that rebuild has fast tracked, and I think they'll be back in the playoffs next year. I say that as a person who doesn't cheer for Calgary. Carolina has been near the bottom of the conference for some time now, and they've really been stuck. And I think Carolina is still stuck. I think that where Carolina went wrong was years ago when they decided, okay, we're going to build around the Stalls, Eric and Jordan. And then I'm sure they were thinking in the back of their minds, maybe we can get Mark out of New York when he becomes a free agent, and that didn't happen. And it's a tricky thing to build a winner. And I think Carolina's probably another year or two away from being in that conversation. Chicago, the franchise is top notch. I can't see them falling out of the playoffs. Colorado is, I honestly think Patrick Roy is the greatest goaltender I've ever seen, but I think he's in over his head as a coach. I think he's too emotional. I think he'd make a good assistant coach. I think Colorado, if they get off to a slow start, I think Patrick Roy's days are numbered because I think Colorado is a good team. Their advanced stats are shit, but I think a lot of that comes from the fact that I don't see in Colorado games a lot of things to like about their game. There's a lot of pieces that could be really good, and I think with the right coach, I think they have a good shot. Columbus. Columbus is a team that I'm baffled by and has never produced a sustainable winner. They've made the playoffs twice in their history. And the second time they looked a lot more promising than the first, and yet they backtracked quickly. They've got some guys in their lineup who are overpaid, and it's affecting their ability to sign new guys to come in. And it means that Hartnell's contract's the one they're trying to shop out because they want to have more cap space, and nobody wants it. Um, Dallas, Dallas with Jim Nill has committed to being one of the better teams in the league, and he's got them there. But until that goaltending is solidified, I honestly see them as a middling, struggling to make the playoffs team this coming season. Because after it was exposed in the playoffs, I could see that rolling over into the regular season. Detroit, I think Detroit's made the right moves to stay in the playoffs, but they're still not likely to get out of the first round. And I think Detroit fans are going to start getting frustrated if that happens again this year. Edmonton's been out of the playoffs for forever, and Edmonton is, I want to say, yeah, Edmonton's going to turn it around this year, and they've made all the right moves. And yeah, I think they're going to get out of the cellar, and I think they're going to be out of serious talks of winning another draft lottery. I think they'll be close to the playoffs. I don't know if they'll be in or not, but they'll be close. Florida's made the right moves to stay in the playoffs next year. My complaint about Florida isn't this year. It's looking long term. That's it. That's all I'm saying. So nobody has to correct me anymore. That's all I'm saying. GMs, it's how would I put this? It's like if I tell you, okay, you can save your money in the bank and you'll have $5,000 in 4 years, or I'll give you $2,000 right now. And a lot of people are going to take the $2,000 right now. And that's how the GMs are. Is win now. Because the way sports is, if they don't win now, if they win later, it's another GM that gets those wins because they're done already. I remember when Nonis was getting praise in Vancouver, some of us realized that was Brian Burke's team that had been put together, and that Burke got fired before what he did really truly took hold, and the team got better. So while Nonis got some credit, there were those of us who said, this is Burke's team. And then when Gillis came in, and Gillis had success, there were some of us who said, yeah, but he inherited the pieces from Nonis that are getting him the wins, and he just sprinkled a couple of pieces on top, and then all of a sudden he's like, look, I'm a genius. So, there's that. Okay, LA. LA with Jonathan Quick, I never want to count them out. They have some really pricey guys. Dustin Brown is at the top of the list, and I don't know what they're going to do. The Kings are the one team in the Pacific Division that I could see falling like a rock this year if they don't do something to really, truly address their problem. And Teddy Purcell is not addressing it. I know they signed him today. Minnesota is middling. Minnesota's trying to fix the problem by buying out Vanek. They're starting to. I wouldn't count them out of a playoff run just because they have a lot of heart. And I could see them making the playoffs again next year by that. Montreal, Carey Price, Shea Weber, Andrew Shaw, potentially Radulov. These could be the four guys that we look back a year from now and say, this turned the team around. Price is healthy. Weber's a beast on the blue line. Shaw's a perfect complement to Gallagher. They're the same player on opposite wings. It's going to drive teams nuts. And Radulov has matured, and he's a 30-goal scorer, and holy crap, Montreal made the playoffs and got home ice in the first round. That could happen, and it could all fall apart. It could all blow back into Bergevin's face, and he's fired a year from now. But I honestly think it'll be probably neither. I think Montreal makes the playoffs. I don't know what they do when they get there, but I think if Carey Price is healthy, they can't miss the playoffs. Nashville. Nashville's made a lot of right decisions. I think Nashville has shown that they want to win the cup. Picking up PK Subban, he's a very risky defender, but he's the type of defender they have in hand. And his risk combined with Yossi being such a solid, stalwart defenseman, I honestly think the two of them together could be a really dynamic pairing. They locked up Forsberg long term. I don't have a problem with that. Forsberg has shown for a few years now. I know he's only been in the NHL 2 years, but he had put up really good numbers in the American Hockey League, and he always acquitted himself well in the NHL when he was called up. So Nashville's got all the pieces in place to finally move up in that division. Jersey, I really don't know what Jersey's doing. I know with Corey Schneider, I know they're never going to be one of the worst teams in the league, but I don't know that Jersey has the pieces to move ahead. They can move sideways. I don't know that they can move ahead. The Islanders. The Islanders have moved sideways this year. I think they probably make the playoffs. I think their goaltending's good. Their forwards are good. Their defense is good. I don't know that any of it's great. The Rangers. The Rangers are a team that could be on their way down. It all depends on Lundqvist. If Lundqvist shows signs of his game losing a step and him not being Lundqvist from 5 years ago, it could be a precipitous fall. We could be looking at the Rangers falling quickly. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think they have a solid enough roster that I think they'll stay competitive. But I guess we'll see. Ottawa. I'll back away. Okay. Ottawa missed the playoffs. I don't like loser points. Ottawa, in my eyes, they won 38 games. 6 of them were by shootouts. That's not a hockey game, so it's 32 altogether. That's one less than Buffalo. This is a team that hasn't made improvements in goal, on defense, or at forward, and they're relying on improvement from within from prospects. And that's a dangerous game to play. When everybody else in your division is putting together these cores, and in most cases young cores of very talented forwards. I'm thinking of Buffalo, Toronto, as an example. Boston would like to, if they had the chance. Florida, Tampa. This is a pretty good division going forward, and if only for that reason alone, the Sens need to figure out a way to shore up their center position. And it even says in articles going into the offseason, the Senators need to shore up center and defense. That they don't have enough depth at both. It's not even coming from me. And this is coming from the Senators themselves saying, yeah, we know we need help in these areas. And then I say it myself, and then I'm Satan, apparently. How dare I make these uneducated opinions of the Senators known to the world? Because Logan Brown is a guaranteed success. He was drafted 11th overall. Absolute guaranteed success. Thomas Chabot, guaranteed success. Because he's a Senators prospect, and Senators prospects never fail. Yeah, they got Thomas Chabot, Colin White. He's not going to fail because Andreas Englund, they're comparing him to Nicholas Kronwall. Hasn't come over yet. Go back to 2013, Curtis Lazar hasn't shown his offense yet, and I know he hasn't really had the chance. Marcus Hogberg was supposed to be potential starter, hasn't had his chance. You go back to 2012, Cody Cece's finally showing what he has. Chris Driedger hasn't really, and Jared Maidens was supposed to be a steal, and he's out of hockey. There's nothing beyond that. 2011, Mika Zibanejad is a good player. I would have him in my top 6. I don't know that I'd make him a primary forward, but I'd have him in my top 6. Stefan Noesen, he's gone over to Anaheim. Matt Puempel, no idea what he is yet. Shane Prince, he's gone. He's in New York with the Islanders. Pajot had a career year last year, really. There's no guarantee he repeats it, but he had a career year. Clayson just agreed to a two-way deal with them. He's kind of a spare part type. He's a number 7 defenseman. And that's it. In 2010, they only had 4 draft picks. Mark Stone was a steal for them at 178. And no argument that he's a steal, and he's their primary winger. And he had 64 points in 14-15. He improved on that a little bit this year, and there's no telling what his ceiling is. But with Stone, he's 25 going into this season, and odds are what you see is what you get. So that's the way it looks for Ottawa. I don't see the team improving to make the playoffs, not because they suck. I'm not saying they suck. I'm saying the other teams in the division have gotten better or will get better or are better and are continuing to try to better themselves still. And the Sens are kind of waiting for this team they've put together to gel and become a really good team. And they haven't had home ice in the first round since 2007. They've got out of the first round once since 2007. So it's, I want to say, oh, they're going to be great, but it's kind of hard to say that. Philly is one of those teams that I can never really read on. Philly from one year to the next, you never know. I think with Ghost of Spear on the blue line, I think they have a good chance, but their goaltending is iffy, and you can never tell which Claude Giroux is going to show up from one year to the next. Voracek's a very good forward, but Giroux's the one that really makes that team go, and you can never tell just how solid he's going to be from game to game, and if his head's in it. And it's too bad, because Giroux was one of my favorite players a few years back. He was fantastic. The Penguins, I don't have to say anything, they won the Stanley Cup. The Blues are always going to be in the playoffs. That organization went through some rough times about a decade ago, but they're back to where they were. They're a good team, not necessarily a great team, but they're a good team. San Jose, they've only missed the playoffs once in the last 10 years. I can't see them missing the playoffs next year. I think this will be Marleau and Thornton's last kick at the can, and I think there'll be some grim determination coming out of the disappointment of losing in the Stanley Cup final. Tampa's a machine, and we're just going to have to get used to Tampa being a machine. Toronto has made all of the right moves to improve for the first time in a long time, because you have Lamoriello, you have Babcock, and Shanahan, and between the three of them, that's a pretty damn good management group. And Lamoriello, I kind of thought had lost it the last few years he was in Jersey, but apparently he was just probably bored of Jersey, and now he had a new challenge in Toronto. And he's really risen to that challenge. He's done very well. Vancouver, they missed the playoffs for the second time in 3 years, and I don't see an improvement this year coming up. I think 18 is the year that things look up for them. I think 17 is going to be a learning experience, and I think it has the potential to be a very long season. And then Washington. Washington will be in the playoffs. They will be highly rated, highly touted going into the playoffs, and then in the playoffs, they're the Washington Capitals. And Winnipeg, I have no idea what to expect from Winnipeg this coming season. I mean, I could throw all kinds of insults, but just by adding Laine, I can't make fun of him, because Laine is, in any other draft year, he's probably number one. And anytime you add a guy who's that talented, without giving anything up, your team is that much better. And there's a lot of reasons to like Winnipeg right now. Scheifele has played well. Blake Wheeler has played really, really well for them. And you got Buff on the blue line. As long as they can get their goaltending shored up, and by that I mean take Pavlich and find somebody who will take him, you've got to figure something out here. Because Hellbuck's ready. Hutchinson's a decent backup. The Jets need to strike now. So that's how I feel right now about all 30 teams. If I have some emotional bias, I'm not aware of it. Because if I had an emotional bias, I'd be like, yeah, Boston, all kinds of first-round draft picks, we're going to kick ass. Dallas, we won the division, and we're going to be great next year. Vancouver, we were down and out this year, but we're going to be back next year because the Sedins will be healthy. And we just picked up Louis Eriksson, and we're going to be great. And we picked up Levy in the draft, and blah, blah, blah. And I don't feel that way because during the off season, the emotions go out of it, and I go, okay, here's where everybody stands. Here's where my teams stand, and we'll see if I'm right. So there you go. That's my opinion on where all 30 teams are headed, and my value of the 30 organizations as they are. And it's an opinion, and some people get really upset over opinions. Baffling, baffling. But it's not just my opinion. I mean, I read around and I look around and I talk to people, and yeah, if you can take the emotion out of it, reality sometimes sucks. But it's reality. And you perceive your reality different than I perceive mine, so what two people consider to be real may be completely different. From my reality to yours may be completely different. I'm surprised at some of the vitriol I see, and if it's overly vitriol, if it's an overly nasty comment or whatever, I'm just gonna delete it because it doesn't really add to any kind of a intelligent conversation. It's just flaming, and it's sad. So, anyways, that's it from me for tonight, and thanks for watching.